lúc xưa tận đây là cho chỉ có tàu vừa cho là một cái là luật là được khen là cho lúc thế cho còn là cho tôi một chat từ lúc xưa hơn nó yếu chỉ mới có phần hiểu thế cho chùa là một trong mỗi USA TV giờ này linh thêm một lúa đã chỉ tháo hôn giác hai là tôi sợ tông ở trong tận đầu
cái chuyện này tôi mới biết nhớ rằng sau này tôi nhớ rằng trong cha của former council block trong hai cái tôi bắt thành là bên lúc công Asian Business Institute Resource Center là ABIRC cho tôi lúc nào nó trong sai chắc là tàu chuyển là bên lúc sẽ họ ABIRC hour họ nói cái bên lúc công tôi tham gia từ bây giờ họ được tàu ở dưới nó hay bên sinh bên bên cho cái tí nhau dưới cho nhau Central Valley cho Fresno, à rồi chỉ cho bên chỉ mong nó cũng mới được khoa chữ sinh tuần trước của tại sao sự minh chỉ hay sự cho họ được biết tàu cho họ City Fresno đó chỉ cho sao sự này government tàu cho tại họ stay at home, họ nói họ biết số sẽ chịu trong việc tàu lúc sau nó biết tăng tàu nhớ là họ có chỗ là họ bên đây mình tàu dân du nó này chỉ biết là họ thấy mình chỉ tăng tàu chủ sự chỉ sát chăng để tàu chỉ biết số sẽ chịu trong cuộc sống cái này tôi tham sự minh chỉ sự chạy cha là họ có máy cha có tàu cho họ City Fresno sẽ trong này chạy有但比這嗰啲啦，比這有都你有比成有比你去世上呢有我哋就比較望在你可以嘅產咯，我傳統呢未到時路上都是因為係路上呢都幫助比路上就比較啲市場比出門就比較人比錯上比到望你嘢可能你嘢一plan你比較談唔住就可能的但是呢你嘢作顧就比門知佢哋幫住你但是呢路上呢我哋呢嘢有 council president Miguel AS 那就是呢個 term 呢嘢嘅將來討論嘢有打呢嘢討論嘢比到朋友查 Louis 下邊嘢嘛我都到查咗到 council president 那就是呢嘢呢嘢有到篩選有好多咗呢 city council 還就有嘅出來佢嘅 meeting 呢嘢嗰種沙但係都冇人路上都講就估呢比如 ABIRC hour 都談論自己就好多比到我就 city 還都是就好多呢到我就好多就實際就比單錯Miguel obviously it's a long intro but thank you very much buddy for continuing to come here because you know as I've said to you many times before this is one of the few ethnic avenues that a lot of our older community actually gets to, and especially now with all the new COVID thing that you can't do group gatherings and all this stuff. This is one of the few news or how they get their news out, and to you know to get news as to some of the new policies, new processes that the city has or services and things like that. It's important that the community continues to be a part of it. So I want to thank you for joining us in the ABIRC hour. And we'll talk a little bit about the partnership that we're doing right now with the city in terms of the business department, stuff like that. But I think the more urgent question is really what's happened with the governor stay at home and what does that mean for us and then the policies that's been put in place.
So I'll tell you, Blanc, I wish I was here in good news, but really we're at a point where we have bad news in the city of Fresno. We are officially out of bed space in the county of Fresno. So just to let people know where we're at, we have 1 million residents in the Fresno County, and we have 0 beds in the hospital for anybody. We have opened up additional spaces outside the hospitals. Those are all taken. We have opened up additional floors in each of the hospitals, including Valley Children's. All those spaces are taken. We are now short of equipment or physical space. What we're short of is people. We have no more medical staff to provide services to those that we have in the hospitals. Just community hospital alone, there's 457 medical staff at community hospital that are home with COVID or in quarantine support. So if you can imagine, we are at a point of crisis. It's a situation we all tried to avoid. We knew it was going to be difficult after Thanksgiving. And unfortunately, it's going to be worse after Christmas. So we're asking people, it's not just about yourself being sick and being healthy enough to recover. Is if you're sick, we know that 12% of those who get COVID end up in the hospital. And of those that end up in the hospital, 10% end up dying. So we're losing people every single day. And unfortunately, the only way we have more space in the hospital beds is by people who are dying. So we're asking people, please stay home, keep your distance like we are today. When you don't have the distance, wear the mask. If you can, make sure you're checking up on your elders, because if they get sick and they need a hospital bed, we won't have any room for them. So we're asking people to stay extra cautious over the winter and Christmas break.
之前咪都攞啦，有稍稍呢到下咗邊，從事到呢幾支係一個稍稍重要，下做呢 chờ ta bữa ta cho cha yo sinh cho tôi nên cho cái món này chỉ những chỉ chua lại đó cho hôm mỏ là những họ là những cho tôi nên họ là cho mỏ là những là bữa tôi mỏ là block chỉ cho tôi cho họ cái món tôi xí giờ khả năng chỉ là họ ta bữa lần khó sinh nào sẽ khả năng chỉ những muốn ta là những một cho là thành một cho nó sau bữa cho lụt tôi xí này chỉ người ta hạ ta xí nó này chỉ lúc sẽ taต่อกู้cho thầu chân tôi nói là nó cho họ cái món kinh nó ha giờ hạ ta nhà ta bé tao này chị hạt xuống này mong muốn cái số long nhà ta biết chỉ nhon này cho phi chỉ trả sẽ chỉ tỷอย่างcho phi nữa nè giờ nó giờ ấy lúc sáng người sáng có bé chú lúc giờ cũng tệ có bé tỷ thái có bé nhìn tao họ cái mò cái có thâu lúc sáng chân tôi nói anh ta lại cần cầu Miguel so what's I mean obviously the city has their responsibility. But I always thought that the county was in charge of our public health. What has been the county's part in doing all this stuff?
So you're right. The county oversees public health, and they're responsible for making sure there's enough hospital beds, there's enough medical staff. And frankly speaking, the county is overwhelmed. You know, we have run out of medical professionals to provide services. We have asked the governor for more help. But the difficult part is that both for the county and the state is, everybody across the state is in the same condition. So there is no available staff to come from San Francisco or from a different state because the peak is across the country. So the city is trying to do its part by making testing available. We have testing at the Fresno Fairgrounds on Wednesday and Saturday for free from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. We're also, if you become COVID positive and you live in the city of Fresno, we will help you with your rent and utilities so that you can stay home and not worry about losing your home. So we're trying to help by also providing them free food, and we have food distribution. So we have spent more than $93 million to provide free food, testing, you know, help with your mortgage, grants to small businesses so people can stay afloat. And we're just hoping that we can reduce the amount of people going into the hospitals, because that's the best thing we can do at this point.
So then we were trying to kind of multifaceted approach to this in terms of hopefully just weathering the high, I guess, the peak of the pandemic during this time, and through some of those programs that we're talking about, the business grant program, some of the free testing that we've had that's made available now to what we're doing, and also some of those that are sick or have the COVID-19, provide some of making sure they stay home, but also trying to support them through some of the rent that they may have, or providing some limited dollars in addition to some of the food distribution. So just to make sure that they're not out and about again.
Yeah, and you know, we're trying to keep people home as much as possible, making sure that they have the financial relief and help that they need to stay home. If you're a small business, that you get some help while you reduce the capacity of your business. At the same time, we know that the vaccine is here, but I want to be very clear with people. The vaccine is here, but it's here for medical providers only. So we're only vaccinating the doctors, the nurses, the janitors are cleaning the ICU beds, and the vaccine, they've gotten their first shot, but it will be 21 days before they get their second shot, which then gives them the 95% protection. So for 21 days, we still have to deal with most of our medical staff not being available to provide services. So we're hoping that people this Christmas, just keep Christmas with your immediate family. Do not take the risk, because if after Christmas your family needs a medical bed, they will not have one in our county.
Anh ta lại cần gọi cho bé trong cho tôi hay cho nó họ cái marketing kinh mình bảo đã bé khá này cho hay cho trả nên cho tại sao nên chỉ mua ilu ya bé ta đã sinh là na chỉ họ nhớ cần gọi ta cái trong mỏ nó có cho họ cái mỏ là nó chỉ so bây giờ sẽ chỗ có lại chẳng là bây giờ用查的么讲叫tôi nên khu mỏ tên là bây giờ cho healthcare provider bây giờ khá bây giờ cho ta bé sự thành phố San California ya nhà cái cho là bây giờ khá đào họ hay cho nó cho cái khu mỏ cho tôi nên khu mỏ tôi xin bây giờ mình áp dụng program tại city ở ban cho tôi nên cho họ cái tên mình là cho họ cái mỏ minji ya program ne ba ha zu ka nya the nung ke yang le ren na do shi de ja bo mo program da ta no je ha zu cho po da food distribution cho mo zu da ma da che cho mo bo ko bo sa ta bi da chi na bo ji sang ko yu ta le ya da chi ching yang de ta na je ka sa ta na ya da yu lu sha ja be cho ya be che mo ne be ya da je da ja be mo dao tu ya ke ti ne ja be mo chong de be sa mo ne je ka na la ne da ya mo na cho ka ne yu je ne sa ta je da ja ya de yang ji ji ne ka sa ta do shi for us in terms of the stay at home, right? And that's been up there. And we said, what is considered essential for us to go?
Yeah. So I'll tell you this, Blanc. This year, as you know, we canceled Hmong New Year.
Right.
Right? We don't want people to make their backyards and their homes the family gathering. If you have more than your immediate family in your backyard or at home during this Christmas break, and they get infected, there will be no place for them. So what we say essential is go out of your house to go grocery shopping, to go to the pharmacy and get medicine, to go to doctor appointments, to go to work if you have to. But outside of work, groceries, doctor appointments, you should limit your travel at this point between now in the next 2 weeks so that we don't get as many people infected.
So the stay at home is, I'm going to say, prior to the end of the year, right?
We are expecting it to go to the end of the year and maybe into next year. So it all depends. If people follow the rules and the advice during Christmas, then it ends at the end of the year. But if they don't, and they have large family gatherings and we have more infection rates, it's going to go beyond next year. So it all depends on each of us individually.
咁你當呢學過嘅嘢，為咗俾佢攞得 essential 嘅嘢，只不過 essential 有一次嘅單嘅嘢，咩都攞嚟當下，佢 essential 就嚟呢時嚟到冇撞咗俾從嚟都做嘅嘢，但係而家佢到冇得拉呀，我呢對住個都冇知道，但係呢邊嘅嘢佢就冇我等人個到不然就要理解到操那麼樣，也可能呢就到需要種。你冇等啦，要到啦吧？要到但弄那家都是因為到現在大家要怎樣嚟做費，什麼熱產嚟做費都是然後呢嘢，有更高就俾從做道路上咯，係都是可能呢就 hostel 咁嘅嘢，因為呢都係嘢要揀嚟做上攞嚟呢，操作上攞別，但有一可能就到上攞不到但這個什麼某啲嘢不應採的，同埋就係中多呢嘢學記嘢，就係只係但冇到難產呢不有到，你可能就俾到需要。可能覺得下咗俾單錯咗，然後嘢就好似啲 Fresno 就 County Fresno，比如做講掉嘅，比如做些俾條 can 俾入面都面有俾人俾字，你有漏有落，就你要冇摸你就係有正經出啦，俾下啲睇頭，為係第日特別注細種，再唱咯，俾片對住對咗俾片冇得到中路俾到對嗰啲嘢，又係大學幾摸你住卡啦，你住到咗頭路上多嘅嘢，頭你啲就可 stay 咯，你仲要當字呵。係都是啊，特別俾農路啦，俾冇出嘅啲嘅嘢，俾班到啲泰國嘅冇見過曬嘢字啦嗰啲，都有可能嘢你學過埋差啲多等啲嗰啲，同你哋就比較到上面住，係時學正經比如說細隻就學 stay 學嘅冇嘅嘢，有正經冇你聽咗俾路上啦，就路上特別有人俾路上散，比如說就係上俾到傾啦。比如說現在邊俾字就老就咪都咪用，就都佢冇俾從嚟做到一模一度一到半度啫，俾人包下但你冇學冇啦，你一度老，嗱你就咪有啲學幾毛件嘅有俾咪係做到比較khó啦，比較就冇冇有烏頭，就是地下不有烏石頭啦，係但係呢就冇爭字到好冇啦，也可能很有更好就俾從嚟做到。I just want to make sure I reiterate to them about the importance of this, especially the social distance, the mask, and the 6 feet thing, if they have to go do their essential stuff. But more importantly, I just reiterated that it's more important for our families. Maybe for those of us that are a little bit healthier, we can weather it. But for the young ones, it's a little bit more challenging, especially older parents as well, and those with pre-existing conditions. They're going to be the one that we have to be careful about.
Yeah, as you know, Blanc, the young kids can deal with it pretty easily. Mm-hmm. But when the elders get sick, they're going to need a hospital bed in a hospital room. And the difficult part for us right now is just tell people we don't have room for them. And we don't have a bed or a doctor or a nurse to help them. So that's why we're hoping that if people can just wear their mask, if they need a mask, please call the city. at 621-8400. The city will go and deliver masks to any small business, to anybody who needs it, just to help them as they do their essential work. But it's really important that this moment in time is for us to take care of the elders. Our parents and our grandparents cannot survive this on their own, and they will need a medical treatment, and we need to make sure we save it for them.
Okay. So let's get back to the vaccination. You know, we understand that the essential workers is going to be the first, and obviously so. At what point do you think that it'll reach to the community? And I say, like, for me,
the general
right?
population.
For the general population.
So let me put it this way. Me and you will not get a vaccine till the summer.
Oh,
so
we're last of the group, right?
The general public will be the last one. So the way that the government has determined vaccinations is the first group will be medical staff and those who are providing services to the ICU. So a paramedic, a janitor, a nurse that's in the ICU hospital. That's going to take us all December and January. In February, we might have vaccinations for teachers if kids return back to school. And it might be for grocery store clerks. And it might be for people working in the meat packing plant that are next to each other. But you and I will probably get it in the summer.
Okay.
So we're looking at June or July before the general population gets the vaccine.
也可能這個俾出嚟但是我嘢因為單你當係真係就錯，要啲睇到嚇 COVID-19 啊嘛，已經得啦。啊，就是就到嗰啲你就不得就 essential healthcare worker 啦，因為就 doctor 啦就我哋去 ICU， 都係就 janitor 我哋，boy 到嗰啲都是 boy 上特工啦，那都是要做多咧能夠，依度呢就不嘛上工啲安全同埋啲睇啦，啊到你做咗10%，也可到呢就 boy 摸啊但。就你停呀，但原因停啲同你咪做比較的 community 比較拉咧嘛俾成啦呀，那就俾成啦那些，不過但就咧呢，對就同什麼就同那些人哋顧物刀啦，對就比較多你就我哋幫得看那些物刀。也可能呢，就比較就啱需要比較地睇上，比較細的等啲咯，呢就比較成呢就正措施很啲，穩定呢比較細種，係大個比5個頭學嘅麼嘅，學過埋呢，都係用做咗，就比從嚟做到，就是比較細條的個地睇那種嚟講，學比有5頭，即係因學5頭學嘅麼嘅種嚟講，用個人嚟就錯咗做嚟，同埋呢就比咪細啲，你班到嚟講就比從嚟做到啦。You know, we're gonna talk a little about some of the programs because obviously the impact of this is not just on the community side, but the you know the business, the economic side, the small business, and you know I've been harping on this about the small business are the least apt to weather this storm, and they've probably suffered the most. And I want to make sure to our viewers that when I say small business, we're not talking about the standard that the USDA put or the start. We're not talking about there's the 500 employees or 500,000 or so forth. And I'll be very direct. I don't know of a Hmong business that has 500 employees, Miguel.
Yeah.
Okay. Or so that takes us out of the picture where we're competing, right? Because I don't know here in the Central Valley or in the state of California. Now we may be having a very fortunate few that I don't know yet that may have a 500 employee Hmong business, but I haven't heard it or seen it. And so, you know, with those type of parameters, it has a huge impact in terms of the survivability of our small business that are mom and pops at 1 or 2 employees that are, you know, operating 100,000 to 250,000 a year, but they are an integral part of our local economy.
What we're talking about is, you know, this morning I was touring the Amazon building, right? 1,000 employees in one building.
Right.
Yeah, the Amazon is making a record amount of profits.
Right.
The gas station is making a lot of money because they're still essential and operating, right? I'm not worried about the convenience store, the pharmacy. Those guys are making money. Walmart's, and Home Depots, and Costco's are making plenty of money. But we've seen a huge impact on the mom and pop restaurants and the small businesses. And those are the ones that we hope the federal government's going to be able to help us. The city has already given $7 million to the very small businesses that didn't get any help from the federal government or the state. The county gave an additional $5 million, but we have probably another $25 million worth of help that these small businesses need to survive. So we're hoping that the deal that the Congress is negotiating right now, that they hopefully resolve it and that there's support for the small businesses.
No, and I think it's critical. You know, and I've had a chance to talk with a couple of your council colleagues talking about, whether it's the county or our local jurisdiction here in terms of the CARE dollar being more intentional. And we've talked about this, about the number of Southeast Asian businesses that actually receive the type of support or grants that the city went through the first program. I'll talk about the loan later. But those numbers are still, at least from my perspective, extremely small and not very equitable in terms of the number of folks that we have here in the city, a number of small business. So how is the city and the county, and the county's not here, but how is the city looking to address this in the next cycle when we have the current issue now?
So I'll tell you, Blanc, we learned a lot of lessons. The first amount of grants that we put out for small business, we had a lot of lawyers applying because they were technically a small business, right? So every round after that, we put more and more limitations to make sure that we target the people. So the last round we said, if you live in South Fresno, we're going to give you more rounds of grants. If you're a restaurant, and if you're a small business that's not a gas station and convenience store, if you were never closed or impacted, then we're going to provide you help. So what we've done is we've learned the people that we left behind. And the next round of relief is going to be focused on those individuals that were left behind. Because an attorney, their work didn't stop, right? And it's the small business, especially the restaurants. We've seen a lot of restaurants. Yesterday I was at B&K on First and Olive, and not having indoor dining means that they can't hire the waitresses,
right,
to do the customer service, and they can't get the tips that are given when you do indoor dining. And when you order out through your phone, the DoorDash gets the tip. Right. The company that you're ordering it from gets the money versus the employee.
เขาคุณนุ่นมาจะไม่ชงนั้นสินะยังเลยฮะเป็นปอที่จะนอตซูหาจะพอสิริยิ่งมันจะโปรแกรมอย่างเนี่ยหาจะอยู่ป้าไปจะตู้นั่นหรอจะ small business ที่จะที่สิยังเลยกูตีเป็นยังน้อยจะโปรแกรมที่จะเป็นพอชัวที่สิหาจะต่อใจกันเขาจะเนี่ยจะลูกป้านะหาจะเนี่ยเป็นจะ Southeast Asian small business เช็คกันก่อนอย่าแต่ตอนเด่นเนี่ยพออยู่โอริจิหาแต่อยู่จอดต่อเลยอยู่ป้านต่อไปวิหาแต่สิ่งเราไปใช้ในเจ้าเขาพอต่อโอรังอีรังอันนั้นเจ้ายิ่งชิดไปนั่นเจ้าอย่างไรเนี่ยต่อเตะจะโซ่จะพอต่อโอเนี่ยอยู่พอต่อเกิดต่อพอยังบ้านต่อเตะจะตอนเด่นเนี่ยเตะจะพออยู่ใช้ชัวแต่พออยู่โอริจิหาจอดต่อจะตู้หลังหลยิ่งชิดต่อจอขอเก็บป้านแต่เจ้าขนอนเนี่ยเจ้าอย่างไรกว่าจะไม่จะไหนจะจะตู้หลังหลไปจอดต่อชัวไปจอดจุดพอทำไปจอดกูต่อจุดพอเนี่ยไปรู้จักเนาะนูโป้หาแต่โป้อยู่คนละอย่างต่างไอ้ก็ไปปลูกให้ตอนเด่นอะไรถอนอะไรโป้เขาโปรแกรมเราโป้ยังอดต่ออย่างไรไปรู้ชาสากับป้านเจอป้านต่อจะโชว์ตัวแล้วกับป้านต่อไปขอมินจีขอนมาอย่างนี้ขอจริงๆจะเป็นส่วนหนึ่งสุดทุนนะ for us we talked about hey the business program and the outreach and we've talked about because the pandemic the way community engagement, it has impacted our community. I mean, I think every community has family and community, but for us, in terms of how we practice in some of our cultures, it's about gathering, right? Pandemic is not good for gathering.
Yeah.
It's not good for how we disseminate information. Yeah. And so that puts our community at a disadvantage. And one of the few, as I've said, left is this type of tool. And so we're looking to say, how can, instead of calling you up every month or get you to come here, that there's a commitment from the city and our county and other public institutions to be more committed to putting out messages on a more consistent basis instead of just when it's emergency, right? You people got to follow this, because that puts, again, I think, health risk for our folks to hear a lot of this stuff after the fact or hear it repeated from those of us that, we saw it on the news, we read it in the paper, or from their children. Because you know how it is. By the time you get the information, you read it, and you regurgitate it back to your parents. It could change a little bit.
Yeah. Blanc, one of the lessons that we learned is we all went to Zoom meetings for government, right? And that works for those of us who can have a laptop, internet, and can participate. But what we failed at was in platforms like this. We're asking people to stay home, and we're not communicating directly when they're on TV at home.
Right.
So we have to do better, and the next time around, come January, you're going to see myself and Councilmember Chavez on these media outlets a lot more, because we have to get the message out, and we relied on the news, we relied on social media, but that isn't enough.
No, especially in mainstream media, you know, and I think they do a great purpose in terms of the larger population. But I think when you get to ethnic community, where they rely maybe on specifically more radio, maybe specifically on that, and that there's, you know, that there's more a commitment. And I think the dollars to what you spend on doing that is still so much less expensive to the larger stuff that it's worth it for the impact of messaging for the community. I think it's great to have you here, to have council members, to hopefully at some point the supervisors come, right? But it's also important to be consistent in that message. You know, and it could be the department heads, it could be certain things that has to be said at that time instead of waiting to get the right time to come out.
Yeah,
okay.
I agree.
We're going to get into the city of Fresno, some of the business that we've contracted with you guys to do some of the outreach, and I want to talk to you a little bit more about that, because that's one of the, I think, a different strategy, I think, that could really help the program move forward. And so I want to kind of see what your thoughts are and how it goes from that. But we're going to go back to some of our sponsors and stuff like that, so give us a chance. Onde na beja kanu na je jobe shu minji abe kana je pulu sha jobe ja sponsor yana ha ya chimo po na je be chita je nya cha to te ja nong ge na ha dong ko cha shu la ga be to kha sa sin na ye onde le ku sang wo cha city of Fresno bo kha program na bo to cha ha pa be cha Chevron cha Valley Small Business Development Corporation, cha Pacific Western, cha Fresno Unified School District, PG 呢啲事，原來也比較 corporate sponsor，不過專業做一般程度，特別我哋班即係被城市包安從嚟做到，為得可能一開始已經做俾出嚟，做個書都plan啦，也俾咪間都談，但比較 business program 的內容嚟嘅，我想到啦。
nhớ rong tại ít trong phong sơn đời, chờ răng phá đại giờ đắt gì, chờ răng phá đại giờ ít lúc cháy là lụa, chỉ cho quất chua, lòm đời cha má chăn đồng là giờ thì, ba tồn trả cái gì, trả xe, trả một trò, có tờ vự, là giờ chế có thoát trò, plu mò, plu ô bó, gió khí cả, chỉ ta linh đời, cú, trở mua va, mua chế, sau, ý hông, một giọt chi hông, chỉ hại, giờ hậu, là giờ apartment. Tu chiếc khí tại tòa này cũng chẳng khó và khó chế, khó phải phá, xua trả, xua giả, hù chí chua, xa sửng chua, bê y o, giờ cũng tổ xeo. Tu hỗ trợ ua hô lử, chí chua, blau bê, cầu chua cầu xa, giờ hù chỉ tàu, chia cú, nhó trò hậu, phổ thơ, ua trò.
While chain stores are struggling to replenish their stock and canceling customer orders, Ventura TV and Appliances, the Central Valley's trusted local choice since 1951, is fully stocked and open for your essential needs. Whether you're in need of food storage and cooking appliances, washers or dryers that sanitize your clothes, or electronics for your entertainment, we've got you covered. With over $3 million of inventory in our 2 huge local warehouses, you can avoid the long lines, empty shelves, and disappointment of delayed deliveries when you shop with us. Get what you need when you need it at our clean, sanitized store or online from the safety of your home at venturatv.com. Our sales reps are ready to take your order via chat, text, or by phone at 559-436-6388. With our new expanded delivery schedules, getting your product delivered and installed has never been easier. So let our family help yours during this time of crisis and shop with confidence at Ventura TV, Electronics and Appliances. We're here to help.
Journey to Success là sự cho cái tao một cái và mình. Nhớ trong lúc Friday lúc có ở lì thì cầu gì, bây giờ mua lúc cũng chỉ nói sầu hối cho virtual, thầu cho tình sân gió cho ở tiền phí nhau. Chúng bây how to website asianfamily.eventxtra.com là sự hỗ trợ chi chùa plau i plau bé, dùng mấy cái cho khi đó cho tuân xài thiết cho nhiệt gì. Món đầu giờ không dùng cho là một thao máu, chỉ cho cả ý rằng gì hỗ trợ chi chùa plau i plau bé thiết dùng bề sai nọ ô chao.
You just called me last night. nhớ rằng cho nên tôi ở trong đó mấy chẳng tí lúc sẽ ABIRC hour còn là sẽ thì on thì bây giờ tham gia cho job business program nó cho services nhất từ city ở ban bây giờ tôi làm nó tại nó sẽ tận tình ở trong này cha ý là của tôi họ nói họ chỉ cần cầu vì tại bên một trong tuổi bây giờ là small business là giờ tôi làm nó mình qua cho họ covid họ cái ban những chỗ ý là của tôi họ cho nó cho những chỗ tôi chụp beta ta cho tôi này tôi chạy họ cái ban là cho nó tôi chạy họ cái ban chỉ những chuyện bỏ lên lo ban lụt thừa bên tôi là ý hai này là ý bên này trong cần cầu nhau sẽ để bên sẽ cho để có option nhau sẽ để nói gì là có percent nhau Fresno County chỉ còn là có muốn cho ta bây giờ chơi mong là bây giờ satisfaction ya ít bậc trong cần có sự phát triển họ cái ban họ họ cái nhà trái rồi chụp bây giờ tôi làm rồi ya ít họ chơi cần có hay là vấn đề bên thành phố này bên thành phố mình chỉ họ chụp bây giờ buyback program the city of Fresno còn là gì họ bắt đầu bù rộng ban bây giờ họ care còn là họ cụ sản到họ rộng cần có到ban bây giờ này就只有對面嗰啲事可能亦都收啦就但係畢竟就不談這些不好 program 啦，但係有我哋看知。You know, before we get into the other program, let's talk about some of the success program that we've been able to work with the city on. And one of the things that ABIRC has directly worked with the city of Fresno has been the buyback program. I know it took us a while to get to it, but finally got through it and through the work. And you know that's a direct contribution from the CARES dollars, $500,000. 10% went to administration, but $450,000 went directly to our small farmers here. So Miguel, I mean, I will tell you on behalf of the small farming community, we impacted close to 300, about 260, 270 small farmers that would not have been impacted with, you know, the same level through that type of direct investment into, we think, our small business, right? I mean, we say small farmer, but these are all small business economic impact in terms of where we are. So on behalf of our organization, but also on the small farmers throughout the Central Valley, but those that reside in the city of Fresno, the direct impact of that dollar, you know, and thank you for the support. How do you feel about that type of direct investment?
You know, it's actually been really good for us. Most cities took all their CARES Act dollars and spent it all on the police and the fire departments, right? As a city, we said, we got $92 million. We're going to spend more than half of it directly with the public, you know, helping them pay their mortgage, their rent, their utilities, you know, for small business grants, you know, you know, free testing for COVID. But one of the key was also, you know, dealing directly with small farmers. We knew that if we can get as much money out to regular people, then it would help them. And, you know, we're proud that we did $500,000. If we get another round of federal relief, you can be confident that we're going to do more of that. But next time we'll do more money, because if the better off small farmers and small business owners are, the better off our community is going to be, and the more they'll stay home and, you know, do only the essential services.
Well, you know, it's not just the direct impact on the small farming, because if we recorded stories, and if you would see those videos, you would cry. You know, it's really dire and straight just because of the impact. But not are we only helping the direct farmers to at least weather this storm right now, and hopefully, because they're trying to make a decision, right? Yeah. These small farmers are like, okay, do I grow the next crop or not? You know, or where is my money going? Because these aren't, you know, the 500 acres small farmers or the 1,000 acres. So they're making decisions as to what's the next cycle. Yeah. Is it investing or not? Would I close shop? Right. So that's one of the things that we've been able to at least assist them a little, so that they take a risk, because without them we'd be in trouble. The other thing is getting the crops, and when we buy them, it's not like we're a wholesaler. Oh, I bought crops from Miguel for $5. Now Blong's going to sell it for $20. Yeah. No. These crops go back to the community with our organizational partners for free. So these are being distributed back to the community in bags that they would never get. And remember, folks, we dealt with over 100, probably like 101, 105 different variety of crops that came through.
Well, you know, one of the things, Blanc, that we enjoyed of it is, as we're doing food relief efforts for everybody, you know, not everybody is like me and we eat beans and rice, right? Some people eat noodles, some people eat greens and vegetables. Right. So it really helped us make sure that the free food that we're giving is not only coming from a small business and a local farm, but it's also the kind of stuff that people are going to eat, right? Because we don't want it simply to go to waste.
No, or they would have, you know, we talk about the larger issue, the greenhouse impact, and all that stuff, they wouldn't have sold it. And we've had farmers that had to do that before the buyback program. But in terms of just making sure that the community gets these type of crop, because these would traditionally go top dollars, right? Top dollars at farmers market, top dollars to wholesale and dealer, top dollars to different places. Now we're getting top dollars crops for free back to the community, and some of our folks are like, oh, we really grow this in here. We have this variety, and it just goes to show that we do feed the world. That sometimes we take our best and we take it outside, and our local residents don't have the opportunity to see what we really grow and the type of quality of foods that we have here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're the top producing, ag county in the whole world and the country, and sometimes our local residents don't have access to good quality food because it's going out to the Bay Area because they pay more.
Right.
So there's an opportunity to reimagine and remind people that we produce some pretty good stuff here.
No, and one last thing about the small farmers, and I know we try to directly work with them in many different ways, and we hope, when we say we work directly with the small farmers, we actually work with them. There is no other middleman besides us. I guess if we have to look at it that way, that that they're not selling this to another retailer, they're not selling this to another wholesaler or retail. We're actually concerned about their sustainability and capacity, and I hope that when we look at programs, that's what we're looking for, is really directly impacting these small farmers. And I would tell you, even with our success of over 250 small farmers, there's still probably about half of that we haven't reached. That's outside of the city resident that we're trying to work hard, with other partners to reach. So there's probably about another 250, 300 small farmers that we haven't really reached, even though we reach out to, we've done work in Merced, some of the Merced farmers through different grant programs, and then also in Sacramento through, the Cat Taylor Foundation or group, that they've been able to help us. So just know that with the leverage of what the city has provided through some of our philanthropic dollars, that we've been able to bring and attract different partners to really highlight the issue of small farming, especially here in the community. So for the city, and I've said to Councilwoman Esmeralda, thank you for her leadership, but to the city of Fresno, I think you guys are the only city that really took the dollars out to say we want to help our small farmers. And so congratulations for the leadership, and kudos to the council members and the city for making that commitment to small farming and minority farming.
Yeah, and it's part of our aggressive response, right? If we ask people to stay home and we know that they have a job to do and they have bills to pay, then we need to help them stay home by addressing those things. And it's also part of why the county, when we did a $5 million for small businesses, the county did $5 million. When we did COVID testing and help you pay your rent if you're COVID positive, the county did the same thing. So we're glad that the county is following our lead, but we need to make sure we do more direct relief for residents in this city.
Yeah, 2021 is going to be crazy. We're not sure yet, even though with the vaccine that's coming in, we're not sure how it's going to look. It's still uncertain for a lot of our small minority businesses as we struggle through. But let's talk about some of the city programs with the business department. I know that through ABIRC, outreach program, Parang jadi kau betul saya cakap orang tanda nak jadi jangan tu stimulus package betul orang cakap kita orang behan kita tu cakap betul tulan lo betul jadi betul saya kau kita nak buat sana tu cakap yang lain betul tu ni tu yang saya cakap na. So as we talked a little bit about the equity side on the small business side, and it's important because with this initial grant the council approved us to do some initial outreach, and we initially talked to close to about 50-something business already before we had to kind of stop a little bit. And many of these are small business. I'm talking about mom and pop again. Obviously are having some tremendous difficulty because of language, because of technology access issues to when they hear about the grants. And you've heard the stories. We read the reports that by the time they hear about it, gone through it, it's already gone. Even though the city has done its best to try to make it accessible in terms of, click here, it's still very difficult even for me, who I'm not, right? And it's still hard for me to figure out where some of those are. And so that's been consistent message from a lot of our small farmers. And lastly, for even our some of the smallest businesses, we talk about the closure of the Hmong New Year this year. Many of our small businesses that do these type of ethnic items, the New Year represents maybe 50 to 75% of their income.
Yeah.
right, for the year.
Yeah.
And so with this being shut down, they're already in that's right. That's 50 to 60% of their general income because of the traffic, because of the activity, because of what they know they can sell. They are in like, we're not sure what's going to happen now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The cancellation of the Fresno Fair and Hmong New Year back to back in the same year is going to be difficult for a lot of businesses who make a lot of money during that 10-day window. Even for the neighbors of the Fresno Fairgrounds who get the $5 or $10,
Right.
you know, for
We
parking
see,
there.
right.
So everybody's going to be hurting, and it's also adding up to the fact that, you know, before we were having concerts at the stadium,
Yep.
now we're now a lot of our small food vendors. So I'm hopeful that in the next round of congressional relief from the federal government, when the city gets their money, that we're going to do another wave of relief efforts for those who we know have been affected by the pandemic.
So what can our community do, you know, the Southeast Asian small business or minority business here, to get our message across, so that it has an equal hearing process in terms of making sure that the dollar somehow is spread equitably? And remember, I'm not saying fairly. I'm just saying equitably,
Yeah.
so that there's a sense of faith in terms of, when I say we, right, because I used to sit in that where the policymakers do really want to make sure that the smallest of the smallest are trying to help in any way.
So what I'll tell you is the top thing that any small business in the Southeast Asian community can do is get associated, in this case, with ABIRC. Because when we're working on the policy for the next wave of relief, we talk to the Fresno Chamber, the Black Chamber, the Hispanic Chamber. We need people to be represented, because we don't have the opportunity or the time to talk to 500 businesses separately. Right. And as you know, our goal is to get the money out as soon as possible. So if we only have 2 weeks to decide how it gets out, we need to make sure we have people that can speak on behalf of the businesses. So I would tell the small businesses, get in touch with the ABIRC, become part of that association, make sure that your voice is recognized and heard, so that when we start drafting and developing the program for the relief, we've taken you guys into account up front.
No, and we appreciate the partnership because, as you said, I think one of the biggest things, and even when I was at City Hall, was making sure that we have an avenue and outreach component that really addresses a large part of our community. And so for them to at least initially begin out with this step with bringing us on to do some of the programming and help them with outreach, you know, directly going there and getting them the right stories, making sure that the community understand what's happening. I think that's a fresh start for what we're trying to do. And you know, I think when the cities, we talked about the different grant programs, and those are obviously the most priority for us if we can, but the grant dollars don't last that long. Sometimes they're able to also get loan dollars, right? CARE Act loan dollars. Obviously, these are like loans, but they're tailored to hopefully help during this pandemic. And so the city has this CARES Act loan. And, you know, in terms of trying to help out with small businesses, $10,000 to $100,000 with a fixed rate or a very competitive rate, but 5 to 10 years. So I think those are important, but also challenging. You and I had this talk. You know, it's like asking Miguel, who's already in debt, right? Who's trying to figure out what else to do, and then I come in and talk about this loan, and it's like, Long, you're telling me to get into a loan again where I'm already alone. It doesn't make sense for a small business. So how do we try to explain that to our small business?
So what I'll tell you is this. Look at it as if you're borrowing money from a family member. Okay. That's going to give you extremely low interest rates that have never been seen before, and that may be able to forgive the loan.
No, but that we haven't heard. So we'll talk. Right. Well, I'll ask that question a little bit.
So that will be part of the conversation as we deal with this stuff, right? We just the city is the landlord too. We have a lot of small business that rent from us,
right?
And what we're starting to see is, you know, we had one large farmer say, "I can't pay the rent, you know, this year because I couldn't plant." And so what we said to him is, "We'll give you 4 years to pay back the rent," right? 4 years is a long time for people to make up the rent, but it also relieves a lot of pressure for you right now, for you can spend the money that you do have on other things that are more important, like buying the seeds for the next crop.
Right.
So there's always going to be options, but if you don't take advantage of the program right now, you won't have options later.
No, and that's what, you know, part of our process is to make sure that we're explaining those options correctly, right? So that they understand that they need to take advantage of what's available right now and how it works, because that, you know, one of those programs, and I remember talking to staff, well, you know, remember the PPP that we had? Is there a possibility for that? Because I think if we, not necessarily couch, but I said there's opportunities to do that, then I think there's more folks that are willing to take that risk, to move forward, to take that loan and provide some sustainability. There's always that risk anyway. But if they're willing to take that risk, and for, let's just say that they're able to survive and begin to show income during whatever that period is, they will begin to also pay it back because they want to be good tenants too. And so that, I mean, also help them, but also the relief of saying this has a possibility to turn into something different. I think that's also willing, because it doesn't do us any good if the money stays there. Right? I mean, the whole purpose is to get it out, so to generate, to support our economy. And if people are concerned or are fearful of that, especially small business, you know, I mean, one more week like this, we're done. And so I think that's a great conversation that I hope that you continue to have. And obviously the new administration, we'll see how those goes. But you know, the CARES Act loan, there's other activities of the business department loan. Lastly, you know, we've talked about this, and I've talked this with the department staff, is that especially the big departments that deals with the community, you know, from the business planning and so forth, and language and cultural competency is a big issue for, I think, for a city of our size, that we have to seriously look at having those that speaks the language there as one of the front first, because a lot of folks come through that, right? And I think translation is good sometimes, but you and I both know that translation is a challenge as well.
Yeah, the most effective communication is speaking fluent language first. Yeah,
right. And so I hope that you guys have that discussion too, because I think it's important for folks to be able to provide a couple of language skills in the department that deals with the public a lot. And those are helpful, because as part of our activity, we're also, even in these tough times, talking about entrepreneurs as well, right? Even in these tough times, there's people that are willing to jump into this mud hole and willing to take risks and become businesses. And so in that, we want to make sure that we're saying, hey, City of Fresno, here's a person there that you can talk with directly that's really going to be able to help you. And we're still supporting, right, the technical support that we should be providing, but also something that should be directly with the city.
Yeah, our immigrant community belong, as you know, whether it's Southeast Asian or Latino.
Right.
Even during a recession and bad times, that's when we get more innovative, more creative, and we take risks. So this is the time for people to think about that investment.
No, we do. And you know, qua job me chọn chỉ họ chỉ chính cho bé tàu sẽ cho cho city ni muốn cái program na, để bé thành sự họ program cho họ care act long. Me mỗi chỉ là me support cho là thọ của hu cho tại ABIRC. Cái plan nó từ mà mỗi từ sự tốt cho nó. Ở chỉ ôn nó cái bé lúc xí họ nó ta này sang cho bé to council president. Nên tàu xí nên lúc xí to tuân chủ cụ thang, tuân chủ ABIRC thang zu cho stay at home policy, choคนหมายช้าพอต่อโอชิชิต่อสิริเขาหน้าเขาจริงๆมันเลยกันก็ไม่ต่อแต่รู้เชื่อนะอย่างรู้เชื่อเขาเก็บมาเก่งนึกจริงอยู่อย่าแต่ไปจีใช้จงไปจีของเต้นจริงๆอยู่เย็นสิอ๋อจะเขาหน้าจะอยู่ใช้แต่ตันเดชช่วงน้อยในช่วงเลยกันนะจะเขาอ้อนจะจะเขาโปรแกรมต่อสิริมั่วไอ้จีเราหูตัวจะไปต่อของหูไปบ้านเตาเลยไปบ้านเตาอย่าไปบ้านจีเตาเราไปเจ้าเมียมันโจจะตัวเนี่ยบ้านเตาไม่ต่อบ้านต่อเจตันเดชนั่นจริงอย่างนั้นก็หาอ้อเขาจริงเป็นชาจุเกะบ้านไปจะทุลันโลคนน้อยเขาที่เขาอ้อนจะเขาจะไปจะทุวัดเต้นนะคนน้อยเขาแต่อยู่บ้านไปบ้านตันเดชไปจะลูกของคนนี้ลูกของหูชิแต่บ้านไม่จะชาวลูกจะไปส่วนจะตัวไปจะอีจะลันโลเองยังหูใจจะเนาะไปสอนชายเก็บบ้านไปไม่โมจูถนนไปโมจูเตาชาวจะน่าจะจูชาวไปลูกจะจ่อชาวไปเสียงแต่ตันเดชนะตรงนี้แจ้งนายกว่าไม่ใช่เลยเจ้านะMiguel, before I quickly close and wish everybody happy New Year, I'm going to give you a chance to kind of you know, talk to our Hmong community out there. I know you're very comfortable with our community. You've been with us for a long time, so please.
So I'll simply say this. I'm sorry that we had to cancel Hmong New Year. I'm sorry that we're in a really difficult pandemic, but this is a year for us to really, you know, reconnect with our immediate families, to keep each other safe, and to remember that as difficult as 2020 has been, our elders, our grandparents have gone through far more to get to this country. And so just, you know, let's protect them. Let's not lose our history. Let's not lose our elders and our parents and grandparents. Let's be patient. The light is at the end of the tunnel, and we will get through this together. And just keep each other safe. And, you know, take advantage of the time, and as annoying as our family can be, stuck in the same house for that long period of time. I know school has been difficult. I have 2 kids who are doing online school, and it's challenging. But please, we're almost there. The vaccines are here. We're starting to protect our doctors and our nurses. We're very close to having more space and more medical staff in the next 30 days when we get the vaccines on all of those first responders. In the meantime, please keep your family safe during this Christmas. Stay with your immediate family. And if there's anything we can do, please call us. You can call us at 621-8400 for code enforcement if you need any mask or help with your small business. If there's anything you need from us, my number is 906-1443. In the meantime, let's keep it together because we're going to get this together, and we'll see you in 2021, where it's going to be a much better year for all of us.
Thank you very much for your support and your continued work within our community. Time is important, I know, and the work of a elected official is never done. It's never about 8 to 5. It's 7 days a week, depending on what, right? One day, chúng ta nói mấy chỗ này chỉ cái tên này mấy tổ chức mấy lúc sẽ tổ chức bên lúc ABIRC hour nó có thể có chuyện gì, cụ cho mua lô sau này nó sẽ nhau trong trong trai cho bên trong số tu cho mua lô phòng công mua cho bên số tu cái nó cái nhau trong cái bên số là công ty u cái thầu lúc sẽ cái marketing cái số là nhau tập ban tập chế cái nhà là cái bên số mua cái số lúc số chơi số bán xong nên cái bên thầu cái bên sang xong nó cái mua cái sai cái nên cái ý cái多個細多係個俾出嚟就講到即係到咗到先至到時講嘅，我哋呢啲個出嚟班上個俾啲睇到學幾萬件，有種從差咗從你這度我想到呢。
lúc xưa hay nhiều ta là nó giờ chỉ chỉ tàu dừa cho là một cái là luật rồi tụ khen giờ chỉ mới khai phim dừa thiết cho sửa trong tại bên hông USA TV giờ này sao bao gì thọ hôn giác khai rồi tụ